Hello and welcome everybody to today's session. It's so exciting to see so many of you out there. India, the host nation, is at the beginning of a midwifery revolution. And the government of India has endorsed midwifery via producing a guideline in 2018. I would now like to introduce to you the chair of today's session, a very well-known person in the world of midwifery and a colleague, Professor Mary Renfrew. Professor Renfrew has written extensively in various publications impacting maternal health globally. She's also defined the scope of midwifery practice published in The Lancet. So without much delay, Professor Renfrew, thank you.
Hello and good morning and good afternoon, good evening and indeed good night to you all, and a very warm welcome to this session. I'm Mary Renfrew. I'm Professor of Mother and Infant Health at the University of Dundee in Scotland, and I'm talking to you this morning from the lovely southwest of Scotland. I'm delighted and honoured to be chairing this session on strengthening midwifery education globally as part of the wonderful Normal Birth 2020 conference. I can't think of a topic that is more important than the education of our future midwives, the practitioners, the leaders, the managers, the researchers, and indeed the educators themselves of the future, responsible for ensuring the best possible care for mothers, babies, and families. I've spent the last few years immersed in thinking about midwifery education, both in the UK and globally, with where I've been involved in writing the new standards for midwives in the UK, and indeed involved in the framework for action that we're going to hear about in this session. I've had the pleasure over that time of meeting and talking with hundreds of student midwives, and I've been incredibly impressed with their dedication, their intelligence, their understanding, and their ability to focus on and advocate for the needs and wishes of women and babies and families that they're working with. That's a testament to them. It's also a testament to their educators, both in clinical practice and in educational institutions, who are doing such a fantastic job. And from that, I have really taken heart that women, babies, and families will be very safe in the hands of our future midwives. Of course, in the past few months, the world's been engulfed by the coronavirus pandemic, and the survival, health, and well-being of women and babies has been hugely impacted, both directly by the virus, but indirectly by the sweeping changes to maternity services, where services have been stopped, women's choices have been constrained, staff have been moved or have themselves become sick. Students have had widely different experiences in this time in different countries, whether their studies have stopped completely, whether they've continued completely online, or whether indeed they've continued on in practice, facing up to the risks of COVID-19. This is certainly a year like no other for every one of us, both personally and professionally. There have been so many negative experiences. In some ways, though, we can also see the pandemic as a rich learning environment. Think of all the things that we know now that we didn't know in January at the turn of the year. Emma Donoghue has written a fantastic book about midwifery in the 1918 pandemic called The Pull of the Stars. And in that she wrote, "We will never learn more or faster than during this critical time." It's true for all of us. It's perhaps most true for the students, midwives who are learning about pregnancy, birth, breastfeeding, postnatal care, and the rights of women and children. They will need time and support when this is all behind us to regroup and consider the impact that this has had on them. But in the long term, they are likely to become a quite extraordinary cohort of midwives whose courage and resilience were so completely tested at this time. Today we'll be hearing something of how this has affected students and educators, but we will also be hearing about some of the wonderful positive developments in education that are taking place and have been put in place over the last year or so that are happening in countries right across the world, including in India, where so much is currently happening. Each of our speakers today are wonderful individuals with a huge amount to contribute to this topic. Combined, they'll create an unmissable session, which I am really looking forward to.